Hello, my name is Nakira Bell, and today I'll be talking about speed accuracy trade off and about the article that I reviewed today and how I feel about it and what I think. The SAT is known as the speed accuracy trade off. In reading this portion of the article, I learned that if the SAT is manipulated, then the experimenters are able to get better results, and it helps to get a more accurate reaction time. Furthermore, while reading, I learned that when given the experimenter more control over the experiment and giving them more control over the decisions that they are able to make when manipulating the set, it helps them to better understand the decision making process because they get to control the set. It was found that instructions are very popular among the SAT community. Although they are very popular, verbal instructions are not the best way to help with SAT. The reason for this is because instructions can be qualitative, and therefore it is unlikely that individuals can adopt similar response criteria both within and between emphasis conditions. While reading this portion of the article, I learned that there are different ways that people help to combat the use of verbal instructions. They came up with a payoff method. And this payoff method, it was used to differentiate rewards for correct decisions and penalize people for errors. This helped to define four response categories based on whether the response was correct and whether reaction time met an actual good reaction time. In this way, they came up with four different things, which will basically be response signals, response to stimuli or intervals, which is basically when people respond to different rewards. Like if you had a good reward, then if you had a good reaction time, then you would get a better reward. And overall, this section of the article is very interesting because it made me feel that the verbal instructions that many people give would be a better way to get good reaction times, but it taught me how reaction time and verbal instructions can hinder one another. This section of the article, from what I grasped, was basically talking about how they plot the reaction time and what instances are used in order for them to be able to plot reaction time. In this, they said they combine the aspects of both the STAF and the CAF in the quantile probability plot. In using this, they use the QPP to describe this information, and for each condition, reaction time quantities are calculated separately for correct and error trials. In this section of the article, I was a bit confused on what was the reason for them using this type of information in order to plot reaction time. But over time, I did better understand what they were using in order to plot reaction time and why they were using this in order to plot reaction time. In this section of the article, I found the most interesting because they use SAT manipulation in order to better understand how the brain works and how it looks when someone is making a decision-making process. In this area of the article, they basically took someone and they used the SAT manipulation in order to understand how the decision-making process was used. They did this by closely monitoring somebody's brain when given a pair of instructions, and they used an EEG in order to monitor brain activity. When the person made the correct decision, they would reward them, and when giving the wrong decision, then they would not give them a reward. Over time, they were able to see how the decisions were made and how the brain would fluctuate when decisions were made. Furthermore, I also saw that in this section, they used an fMRI machine in order to examine neural activity during SAT manipulations. When using the fMRI, when trying to use the SAT, they saw that it suffered in several aspects. It is notable that all agree on at least one conclusion: SAT manipulation affects more than decision threshold. They said that, in fact, the most consistent finding is that the relative to accuracy emphasis, placing subjects under speed stress leads to an increase in the bold response during baseline intervals. Basically saying that when someone is put under stress when trying to make a decision, then it isn't helpful to them, and it also increases the bold response. Overall, I found that this section was the most interesting, and I found that the information in here and the information in here was something that I would want to read again. My overall feelings on this article was that it was very interesting to learn about speed accuracy trade off, what exactly it was, how it can be used, and also learning about the decision making process and how this can be used in order to aid in understanding the decision making process, and how reaction time and the decision making process in this all go hand in hand. The article was a little confusing for me at first to read and understand, and it still is, but I will read this again, and I want to further understand how the decision-making process works and how SAT manipulation can aid in helping to get a better reaction time out of people when making a decision. I also feel that from this article, I learned that when a person is put under pressure when trying to give a better reaction time to a decision, it doesn't help the person, and it makes them make more of an error rather than help them to make the correct decision when using speed accuracy trade-off. Overall, this article was interesting, and I would read it